Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I'm not sure who's around, and as you can see and probably hear in the background, I'm sitting in my car whilst some of my children are playing outside on our way back home. Is anyone around? I think some people have joined us now. So I decided to do this very, very quick, spontaneous live video because I posted something this morning, and it was actually just a random thought. It was a random thought, and I really didn't expect the type of reaction that I received from that message, and I believe that it resonated with a number of sisters. So you might want to scroll down if you haven't read the message from this morning, but very, very briefly, I can describe it as sharing, I guess, one of my most inner, deepest reflections about myself and my journey. And for those of you that don't know me, I am a revert. I became Muslim 20 years ago this June. And I can say that in recent years, I have journeyed. I am still journeying. And the post that I wrote this morning, I just briefly mentioned that I personally have observed a number of brothers and sisters who have, or who were once known by a particular name, be it a kunya or a Muslim name. And this is not in reference just to reverts. This is reverts, born Muslims. This is everyone. So I shared a reflection that I noticed that brothers and sisters who were known by a kunya or by their Muslim name had, over a number of years, had decided to change and revert either back to their non-Muslim name if they were reverts, or their kind of born Muslim name if they were born into Islam. Anyway, check out the thread. It was, I mean, I think there's over 100 and something comments on there. It was something that clearly resonated with a number of sisters. What I want to mention is this. For me personally, when I became Muslim, I was obviously known by my non-Muslim name. I then became Alia. And over a number of years, I then became Rayyan. And in recent years, maybe you'll probably have noticed, I then have reverted back, excuse the pun, to Alia again. And for me, that's actually a profound part of my journey, because I feel that I feel that I lost a part of myself. I feel that I lost a part of myself over these last 20 years. And it's not so much that it's linked to the name Rayyan, because Rayyan is a very, very beautiful name. It's one of my children's names. It's not so much that. It's more the fact that Rayyan became a persona, became someone that wasn't in line with my true authentic self. Now, many sisters resonated with that when I wrote about that rather this morning. What I wanted to mention is not so much the name, but more, I feel, the identity crisis that a lot of sisters and even brothers are going through. And it affects everyone. It affects reverts, non-reverts, the lot. What is important for me to mention, this is the reason why I'm doing this live, is I am a massive, huge advocate of practicing Muslims, non-practicing, but particularly practicing because that's the space that I'm in, finding themselves, being their true authentic selves. However, there is a danger, and there's a danger that a lot of practicing Muslims on the quest of trying to find themselves are falling into, and it's one that I'm particularly conscious of, and that is in the quest, on the journey to be our true authentic selves, we seem to have lost a very, very important aspect of that journey, and that is to use Islam as our benchmark as we are journeying, as we are embarking upon that quest to be our true authentic selves. And this is something that I personally am really, really conscious of. I have made a lot of changes. I discussed this in my post this morning. I have made a lot of changes. I have been criticized by some of the for some of those changes. I have been told that I'm leading sisters astray because I've made those changes. For example, the color of my hijab, the way I wear hijab, the fact that I now am on social media without niqab. These were all personal choices that I lifted up to Allah, but I've been criticized for those. And I forgot the point that I was going to make. But essentially what I'm trying to say is that when we are on a quest to practice and worship as ourselves, and that may include some of the changes that I've mentioned, it may include other changes for you, it's really, really important that the journey is to find our true authentic selves with Allah. And that's what I've titled this live video, that the quest to be ourselves, the quest to live as ourselves, the quest to embrace our true selves, the quest to practice Islam as our individual selves has to be on par with what is pleasing to Allah. Because what I'm seeing is that a lot of sisters on that journey are actually losing their deen. They're losing their deen because for them, the journey is, I just need to find myself, period. I need to feel comfortable in my own skin, period. I need to, I need to focus on the inner rather than the outer, period. And what we're seeing, in fact, is a lot of sisters are taking steps that are actually not in line with what is pleasing to Allah in that quest of being their true authentic selves. Now, I get it. I've been there. A revert of 20 years. When I look back at how I became Muslim and the journey that ensued after that, and the steps that I took and what I was kind of pushed towards, I get that somewhere down the line, whether you're a revert or not, you may have just simply followed the status quo. You may have probably even just due to your zeal, wanted to be this person, this ideal Muslim, and I spoke about this in Honesty Talk, that you or others had mentally constructed. And then perhaps years down the line, you've lived as that person. And then due to maturity, due to age, you kind of look at yourself and think, whoa, hold on a second. All of this time, I've actually been practicing Islam. I've actually been living in a way that isn't in line with who I actually am. And that's what I'm actually going through. That's what I've been going through for a period of time. That's okay. I think it's good to be honest with ourselves. I think it's important to be our authentic selves. I think it's important to remove the masks and to worship Allah as ourselves, with all our flaws and our shortcomings and our preferences and our individual personality and flair and so on. However, we need to be conscious of the fact that whilst we're doing that, and it's an amazing journey, it's a wonderful journey, and my gosh, sometimes is it a painful journey. I think I need to write about this and probably speak about this a lot more. Whilst we're doing that, Shaitan is there. And we need to remind ourselves of that. And for me to say this, it's no easy task for me to say this, because for those of you that have been following me on Facebook, I wave the flag of authenticity. I have been speaking about the importance of being real, of being honest. I mean, that's why Honesty Talk was set up. But it is very, very important that any journey we take, particularly in an internal journey of change and development, that it's taken with Allah Azza wa Jal with us. Because if we don't include Allah, if Allah Azza wa Jal isn't at the forefront of that journey, Shaitan will be. And if Shaitan is not at the forefront of that journey, our nafs will be. And I have actually made this mistake. I'm going to raise my hands and say that during parts of this journey to be Alia, this revert of 20 years, to worship, to practice as me, I have actually there were moments where I forgot to place Allah at the forefront. And when that happened, I made serious mistakes. Hands up. I made serious mistakes, and I ask Allah to pardon me, to forgive me, to shower me with His mercy. But then I've learned, and I'm learning lessons from that. That, you know what, my quest to be Aliyah, to practice Islam as Aliyah, as this Muslim that's striving to journey towards Him, to journey towards the next life. I cannot just do that. I cannot achieve that by just taking myself on that journey, by just focusing on what's comfortable for me, what's real to me, what's authentic, what's purely me. I need to do all of those things with Islam, with Allah's pleasure as my benchmark. And with that, then bi'idhnillah, I can achieve authenticity with my Lord being pleased with me. Because what is the point of embarking upon this journey towards the self if we're not taking our Lord and His pleasure as a priority along that journey? We're going to actually lose ourselves, really and truly. We think we're going to find ourselves, but without Allah, we're going to lose ourselves, because really, we are nothing without Him. We are nothing without Him. And this journey is a profound one. I look back when I became Muslim 20 years ago. I was young, I was naive, I was ignorant. I've made so many mistakes. I've learned a heck of a lot. But one thing that I have learned, and I'm learning even more now, is that a journey like this, such a deep, profound journey of understanding yourself and being your true self, that we can take all the courses in the world, we can read all the books, we can meditate, we can reflect, but really and truly, we will only be able to attain true authenticity if Allah Azza wa Jal is a part of that journey, if we place Him at the very, very center of that quest. Because without Him, we're nothing. We are unable to achieve anything without Him. Something else that I want to quickly mention before I end this, because I'm going to have to call my children to come back in a minute, is that for me, and I think I've spoken about this briefly in Honesty Talk, I had to go through some very, I would say, ugly, painful situations. I had to meet certain people who would turn my world upside down in order for me to face my true self. And so I want to mention this because if you want to be beloved to Allah, you need to worship Allah as your true, humble, raw self. And in order for you to be shown that, often Allah will place you in a situation that strips you from, where people are stripped from you, where you're even stripped from yourself, in order to face who you really are, and in order for you to build upon that basis, upon that foundation. And so what I would say is, if you're going through a very difficult situation where someone has hurt you, where you've made a mistake, where you're really, really struggling with a test, it could be that Allah Azza wa Jal is placing you in that situation with that particular person at this particular point in your life, in order for you to actually truly see where you're at and who you really are. And it's only then that we can build upon that very raw, very basic foundation and journey towards our Lord. And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I would say the last few years, I have really been shown myself. And it's funny because I was having a conversation with a dear sister just last week, you know, where she spoke about the fact that her authentic self has been shown to her because she was tested with something that she used to judge people by. And I remember in this conversation, I said to her, well, for me, that isn't the case. I don't believe that I've judged anyone. And then she turned around to me, she said to me, but no, Alia, you actually judged yourself. And I had to stop for a second. She said, no, Alia, you actually judged yourself. And as a result of judging yourself, Allah has tested you in this area to show you your true self. And it's true. I arrogantly, okay, hands up again, would judge myself that, you know, no, I would never do that. I would never act in that way. You know, you know, I've been Muslim this long that I would never kind of reach that level until I was tested in that area, And it was as though, and I can see it now, and I smile now because I can see that Allah is actually giving me an opportunity to see who I really am and build upon that. You know, subhanallah, when we think about the journey to Allah, when we think about the hijrah of the heart towards Allah, how can it ever happen unless we are completely humble, unless we are completely humble, raw, and ourselves? That's the only way that the heart can truly travel towards Allah. And for me, I can see that in order for that to happen, I had to be placed in certain situations with certain people and experience certain tests where I was shown that actually you think you've got it. You think because you've been Muslim for this length of time that you've got it. No, this is who you are. This is who you need to worship me as someone with flaws, someone that is definitely human, someone that struggles. And this is how you can now come back to me. I feel that this is what Allah is telling me. This is what Allah is teaching me. So I think I've kind of gone off on a tangent here, and I'm not sure if this has resonated with anyone, but kind of like to summarize this live, I just want to say, in relation to the post that I wrote this morning, yeah, I believe that Rayyan is not, sorry, I'm just telling my child, no, not now. I believe that Rayyan is not the person that I wish to continue my life as. That's not because of the name. So I want to get that straight in terms of the post that I wrote this morning. That's because of the persona that was created by others and myself, which was not in line with who I really, really am. So that's why I've moved from Rayyan to Alia. But the journey that I'm taking now is Alia, or I guess creating Alia again, but ensuring that I do that with my Lord. It's not enough for me to say, you know what, I'm comfortable like this. I'm going to worship like Allah like this because I feel good, because it sits right with me. That's not enough. That is not enough, and it will never be enough. I'm going to journey towards my true self with Allah. I'm going to refer back to Allah. I'm going to ask Allah, you know, am I getting this right? You know, have I made a mistake? Am I going off the path? You know, bring me back, Ya Rabbi. Bring me back. So, yeah, that's kind of all I want to say is, yes, by all means, journey towards your Lord. Journey towards becoming your true, authentic self. It's a beautiful journey. It's a raw journey. But ensure that you do that with your Lord. It's advice to myself. It's advice to you. Check out the post that was written this morning. Share your thoughts. Comment below. I'm not even sure if what I've said today has made any sense, to be honest, because I'm not even seeing any comments, just seeing lots of people watch. But yeah, these are just a few of my thoughts. Okay, so have a wonderful rest of the day, sisters. Take care, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.